Hello and welcome back to the TomFM channel, and welcome back to F1 2020 and the My Team career mode with Shitty Gel Grand Prix, named after our favourite player from our Football Manager 2020 series, Andre Shitty Gel. Today we've got the Dutch Grand Prix. Last episode I said it, the Spanish one coming up, but the Spanish one is the race after the Dutch one. I basically forgot I'd recorded the Dutch Grand Prix. So that one is coming up today because that is race 4 in the calendar of our 16 race calendar for the first season. At the start of today's episode, we're just lining up a few different activities for the time in between races. Where actually we can fit in every single activity this time in between races, which is quite handy. So we're going to get everything done here, some vehicle PR filming, attending an F1 esports event, visiting sponsor headquarters, all that kind of stuff. So really maximising everything there to get some money in, improve our acclaim, improve the chassis morale and things like the morale of the chassis team. So that's pretty handy as well. So we go through all of this, and it comes up halfway through here that we can go to an invitational event at the Zandvoort track in the Netherlands, where we're going to be racing in just a moment's time. If we do that little thing, we will get some extra money, essentially, and some extra acclaim, which will boost our reputation massively, which is great. We also get to sign a new sponsor, and we're going to sign this one with Quest. It's not the most per week, but it says if you finish a race without DNFing, then you'll get an extra big bit of money. So I thought that was very handy to have. So we've said yes to that. We've got a new sponsor on the car in Quest, and now we're doing this invitational events where essentially it's just like checkpoints. You have to get to the checkpoint within a certain time to then reach the target distance. And as you can see, by the time we run out of time, we have met the distance. So we've got basically the easiest £150,000 we've ever earned, an extra 1,000 acclaim as well, which is going to help us get to our next sponsor, which is great. And from the money that we just made from that, I'm going to upgrade my character, or Andre Shitty Gel, a little bit. So we're going to do the power mapping, which gets us 10% reduced engine wear, which is quite handy to have. And also I think we'll do some media coaching as well to unlock some more answers in the interviews, which don't come around too often. I don't think they really do too much, really, but it's good to have that kind of stuff. So we've upgraded our character a little bit more, as you can see, as compared to a Lacey there. But as we head into qualifying for the Dutch Grand Prix, it's another new track. Last time we were at Hanoi, this time at the Dutch Grand Prix, and quite honestly, I'm not very good at this track. One, because it's new, and two, because it is quite technical, and it's a bit harder to do the technical tracks on the controller. Because with the wheel, it's pretty easy to turn the wheel around as if you're actually driving. With a controller where you've got lots of tight corners, long corners as well, like you have on this one, it is difficult to maximise the controller really with this one. So our first qualifying run was pretty decent. Our second qualifying run right at the end of the session. Our first qualifying run only put us as good as 20th actually, so it wasn't a great run really, but I was pretty pleased with it at the time. Our second run though, as you can see, we are 2 tenths up on our previous time. Where is it going to put us though as we come across the line? Puts us up to 18th. We've got maybe one more lap in us, but using these old tyres because we can't go into pit for a new set because we've only got a minute left in the session, so we've got to try and do a time here on this lap. But unfortunately, as you can see, 6 tenths down on our best time. Wasn't particularly good. So we're going to be starting the race in 18th position, which is probably where we should be, but it does feel a little bit unfair.
It was 35 years ago that the late great Niki Lauda took his 25th and final Grand Prix win here at Zandvoort. He came from 10th on the grid to beat his McLaren teammate Alain Prost by just 2 tenths of a second. Well, Zandvoort is a very different circuit today, of course, but still one with an incredible legacy. And we're going to add to that. Welcome along to the 2020 Dutch Grand Prix. Zandvoort circuit then, 14 corners, 10 to the right and 4 to the left, with plenty of steep camber and elevation changes to keep our drivers on their toes throughout the 2.6 mile lap. And watch out for cars making use of the DRS zone into turn 1 to try and overtake. And with me as usual is Anthony Davidson. Now we probably ought to start by discussing Sebastian Vettel. As ever, the threat of unreliability is never far away, and indeed they'll be starting out of position today due to a power unit component change. So it's going to be a difficult task to move forward from there.
Everyone has to deal with penalties or reliability issues from time to time throughout their career. You just have to suck up the pain and get on with the job at hand. Today isn't about performing a miracle to put the car back where it should be. It's about effective damage limitation.
So there we go. There's a bit of an introduction to the track if you've not come across it before. Obviously a new one for the calendar this season. Well, actually an old returning one, but new for the game. We're going to go on the the medium to soft strategy for this race to try and undercut everyone else as the lights go out and we get a pretty decent start at the start of the Dutch Grand Prix, immediately overtaking Latifi and going side by side with our teammate Alesi into turn 1. But it's quite a short run into turn 1, quite a heavy braking zone. Obviously it's basically a 180 turn there around that as we don't quite catch Alesi, but Norris looks to go past us there. We do have the inside line into this next hairpin corner. We nearly crash into our teammate Alesi there, but we do get the move done on him just about as he drops behind us, and now we've got to try and chase up the two Hasses of Grosjean and Magnussen ahead of us. But it's such a small technical track, this one. It's not very wide as well. There's only one real straight, and that's the pit straight. There is another straight, the DRS zone, but I wouldn't really call it a straight at all. It's not really much of one in my opinion. I think it's going to be so difficult to overtake on this track in the game, but also in real life. I'm a little bit concerned about this track in real life, just because this is the second straight I was talking about. It's hardly a straight. You hardly go anywhere on this straight. You've got a DRS zone there, but I doubt overtakes are going to be done there. It's so difficult to get the overtakes done, and I'm really worried actually that it's going to be really hard, particularly next season, when the regulations stay the same to overtake on this track. When the regulations change in 2022, where most of the aero is done from underneath the floor, it's generated underneath the floor of the car rather than the wings that they are today, it might be easier to overtake then, but I think this could be like a bit of a Monaco or a Hungary where it's going to be very difficult to overtake on most of the track. I think you've got a chance there right at the end of the straight, and this corner coming up here, I think you can maybe go around the outside as we're trying to do here on Grosjean, but unfortunately he's just got slightly better line and traction at the corner there. But that's another overtaking area. But other than that, like this sort of windy section of track here, it's so difficult to overtake on as we try and go down the inside there, but obviously that's the racing line, so you can't really go down the inside there very easily. It's not the best track to overtake on at all. So I'm a little bit concerned as we smash through that 100-metre barrier sign there because we went a little bit wide, but we couldn't quite catch up to Grosjean and Magnussen too much. That was a little bit frustrating, although it looks like Magnussen has slowed up here. We've overtaken Magnussen. I'm assuming he must have some sort of engine issue there as we come around this corner, and I think we're about to get a message saying Kevin Magnussen is out of the session. Unfortunately, no safety car was deployed, but that would have helped us out a little bit to bunch the pack up again and maybe have another go at trying to attack Grosjean and other cars like that. But yeah, we do drop behind Magnussen, Grosjean I mean just a little bit, the other Haas driver Grosjean. We drop behind him by 2.4 seconds as we enter onto lap 5. But of course, we're starting on the mediums as Lando Norris looks to come down our inside there. We hold it around the outside just a little bit there and look to get away, but you can see that there's a bit of a train forming behind us. We're on the mediums, and Norris and Ricciardo just behind him, both on the soft tyres. They really want to get past us, but quite frankly, it's so easy to defend on this track because it's so narrow. We're going to have a defensive masterclass today. Right now, we can't catch up the cars in front because we're on the medium compound tyres. Everyone else on the more preferential and faster soft tyres, but we'll be on the soft tyres come the end of the race, so hopefully we can catch up then. But until then, we just got to keep defending really, really well. We've got Norris once again looking to come past us, but again, we hold it around the outside. We leave the room. You can see we're leaving the room for him should he want to go down there, but he's not quite got the grip or the aero maybe to get us down the inside there. So again, just defending nicely, keeping far away from him. It's really good stuff from us. And again, just showing you how you can really easily defend on this track. If you're playing multiplayer, this is a really good track to, if you get a good qualifying session in, it's good to defend on this. As Norris looks to come down our inside again, down that sort of second straight with DRS, and he does hold the inside line, but we get some better traction around the outside, and we get the position back around the outside. We've got the inside line for the next corner, coming into the final two corners before the pit straight. So we might have another go down the pit straight, but I think he's had to slow up just a little bit. He's dropped back half a second behind us now, and you can see on the mini-map he's got to defend from Ricciardo more than anything else right now, rather than attack us as we enter into turn 1, comfortably ahead, still in P15, which I'm pretty happy with. I think that's pretty indicative of where our car should be, I think, in terms of how good we are. We're better than the Haas, and we're better than the Williams, of course, although both Haas drivers were ahead of us, and still is actually Grosjean. As again, Ricciardo this time looking to come down our inside. He doesn't get the move done though, which is quite handy. We stay ahead of him, and again, that sort of pit straight, that's where you're vulnerable, but other than that, it's pretty easy to defend around this track, as you've seen us do. We just hug the apex of the corners, hug the inside lines, and cars have to try and go around the outside of you. And obviously we did that a little bit with Lando Norris, but I think just because we got some good traction, we knew what was happening, we could get on the power quite early there as we go for the track just a little bit. But putting it on the apexes, parking it around the inside of the track, it's so easy to defend here. There's nowhere to really get by, and you can start to see, look, we've got a bit of a queue behind us. It looks like we've got I think our teammates in there. Obviously we've got Ocon, it's Ocon, not Ricardo, Ocon behind us, Norris, both the Williams, and I think our teammate Alesi's in there as well, in between the two Williamses. Ocon tries to go down the inside of us, but obviously can't do that as we come round once again defending the position. Great stuff, and we're still in 15th position coming on to lap 8, but they're on the soft tyres. I was going to pit around lap 10 to move from mediums to softs. These guys surely have to be coming into the pits now as we head down the pit straight. It looks like Norris is going into the pits, and I think maybe one of the Williams has gone in as well, but none of the cars too close to us down that pit straight. As we enter this sort of second straight, actually with better traction, Ocon did get past us here, so very rarely you might be able to get past on this straight, but you've got to get good traction. Rely on the other car not getting good traction. We didn't have a great exit to the corner there, and our tyres are starting to wear just a little bit. Of course, we're on the slower compound of tyres as well, so Ocon eventually got past us there, but I imagine he's going to just dive straight into the pits this lap, whereas we're going to stay out for one more lap. Here he goes into the pits. We've got DRS. Latifi stays out with us there as we head down the straight. You can see there's some cars coming out of the pits. Are we going to get ahead of them? There's a McLaren. It's the McLaren of Carlos Sainz, who's obviously pitted ahead of us. We've got ahead of him. Might be able to hold him up for a little lap. We couldn't quite get ahead of Lance Stroll, though. He just stays ahead of us there from that pit stop. And of course, Sainz is going to be gutted that we've got ahead of him there as he's battling with Stroll for the points positions. They're in 10th place. Battling for a point there for both teams, an important point as we come round these corners. I get it just a little bit wrong in the braking zone here, go quite wide, have to slow down, and here comes Carlos Sainz who barges us out of the way a little bit, and there's a bit of carbon fibre. What's that about? As Sainz gets position, Latifi ends up sort of bashing into us a little bit, but let's watch from Carlos Sainz's perspective as we come round the corner. I go slow and have to go wide, but he just drives straight into us, pushes us out off the track. He didn't really leave us the room there, but I didn't see any carbon fibre flying off his car, but we saw a bit of blue McLaren carbon fibre, so I'm not quite sure where that came off with, as I get a warning for a collision with Latifi after that for getting ourselves up in the straight. But Stroll off into a distance. Sainz already a second ahead, but he's got to pit again. Obviously that front wing damage that he suffered by crashing into us has really ruined his front wing, so he's got to pit again for a new front wing. We're into the pits, as is Latifi behind us. Hopefully we can stay ahead of Latifi and the other cars that overtook us earlier on. Norris does actually manage to jump us in the pits, so does Ocon, so we drop down to 16th, which isn't great. So obviously the undercut has worked really, really well there for Norris and Ocon. They had some clean air after their pit stop and could actually do something quite well there, as we've got Russell now charging down our inside here, and he gets the inside line. These past few laps have been really eventful for overtaking, but we've got some better traction as we go side by side with Russell down this really thin bit of track. We have to go on the grass there because I thought we were going to make contact, but eventually we do just about get past him there. Maybe a little unfairly by having to go on the grass, but I was worried about having contact there, which wouldn't have been great. And for the rest of the race, I must say, Russell stays in contact with us. I guess this means that either I'm just not very good at this track, or the difficulty is a bit too high. I mean, we're 95 difficulty still. Some tracks 95 is perfect for us. Sometimes it's too hard, like it maybe was a little bit in Vietnam. Sometimes it's a bit too easy, like you could maybe say it was in Bahrain, for example. But we'll stick with 95 difficulty for now. The AI seems to just differ from track to track of how effective they are. So maybe we need to switch it up track by track, see which tracks the AI are really good at and which ones are not so good at to change the difficulty up. But we'll leave it on 95 for now as we enter on to the final lap of the race now. We've got Russell behind us with DRS looking to try and get a move done into the hairpin here, but he's not going to get the move done as we hold the inside line, hug it properly. You can see there's quite the train of cars behind us. We've got Russell, we've got Alesi, we've got Carlos Sainz, and I think that is a Alfa Romeo behind either Giovinazzi or Kimi Raikkonen. I imagine probably actually it's Giovinazzi, I would imagine. I think Raikkonen is ahead of us a little bit, which is quite frustrating because he's our rival this season. We need to be beating him. But as we come round into Sector 2 of the track now, we're doing pretty well. I'm pretty happy with the pace. You know, we've got away from Russell, and I think we're going to stay far away enough for him not to get us in either of the DRS zones on this track. So I think we're going to hold on to 16th position. It's not quite the Bahrain that we saw a couple races ago. It's an improvement obviously from Vietnam, but it's not quite the same as Bahrain, although we were helped out heavily in Bahrain with the safety car and cars not pitting on that safety car. But a 16th position here I think is pretty decent. I think it's reflective of where we actually should be, given that we are the third slowest car on the grid. I think it's pretty reflective of where we should be. And again, we've had a defensive masterclass. We could have easily dropped down a little bit, potentially dropped the difficulty a little bit because we haven't been able to catch up cars ahead of us. We've dropped back massively, but defensively we have had an absolute blinder today and hold on to position really, really well, finishing 16th there. I'm pretty happy with that one. I think I'm pretty happy. Alesi obviously finishing 2 places below us in 18th there, so not too bad from the Shitty Gel Grand Prix team there. I'm kind of happy with that one. Hopefully we can take this and move into the next race, which actually is in Spain, one of my strongest tracks. Hopefully we can get some good points there with a good qualifying session. Qualifying let us down a little bit here, I must say. We could have done a bit of a better job in qualifying to get a better result. But yeah, Kimi Raikkonen did finish ahead of us, so he gets 4 points in our rivalry and leads it 8-7 now, or 9-7, which isn't great. 5 races remaining on that one, so hopefully we can get the points we need to overtake him and get that big boost of acclaim as well. We do move into level 7 of acclaim as well for the team, so once we get to level 10, we can get a third sponsor on the car, which will be absolutely fantastic, as we are nearly as highly rated as Alesi, both on level 5, that he's just slightly ahead of us. Obviously not getting that 75 laps done as a team. We need to get rid of that sponsorship when we can do it. We do get the no DNF extra money there from the sponsorship, which is great to see. A little bit of damage on my car, which we have to pay for, but we're now up to £2.8 million in the bank. We might look to spend some of that in facilities next episode in Spain. But that is it for today's race and today's episode. So thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Of course, if you have done, drop a like on the video for me. Subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Goodbye.